We want to start by talking about attention and how we teach attention. It seems like such a like, how do you teach someone to pay attention? But we can, right?
Yeah. I think like anything else, it's just broken down into individual skills and kind of understanding how they progress in typical child development. So at a very young age, even babies, their first signs of attention is orienting to things that enter their environment. So orienting with an eye gaze, just attending at it. Whether this be, someone walks in the room or there's a big loud noise or something, they'll move their head in the direction to attend toward the sound. So some kids that we work with don't even do that kind of stuff. I've heard stories of parents who had to bang pots and pans and their child just never looked up from what they were doing. So that would be one of the first things that could be focused on. And then from there, learn, and maybe keeping it sterile initially, so there's nothing really cool and exciting that they're participating in at the moment, so it doesn't make it more difficult to remove attention from that to something else. So once they can do that pretty well, then moving to the next step, which is, okay, now they're doing something preferred, and we're going to do the same thing, and we can see if we can get them to disengage from what they're doing here and move their attention to something else.
So that's the next skill, disengaging from one thing to another. Okay.
And moving your orienting to the sound, person, object, whatever it may be. And then learning to shift your attention back and forth between things is important.
Which we all need to learn how to work on.
Yeah,
how often are we seeing people walking through the store, texting, and walk into something? I see that twice this week, right? Being able to shift your attention back and forth from those things.
Yeah. So like, for example, if, let's say, a child's in a class and they are working on some handwriting, tracing letters, let's say, and then all of a sudden on the loudspeaker, the principal starts speaking, they should be able to disengage and attend and listen. But then what sometimes can happen is they get stuck and they don't get back on task. So shifting back is sometimes a problem where people forget what they were doing, or getting back on task is difficult.
Yeah.
And being able to do that multiple times, multiple shifts. Having a conversation with someone and then you hear like your name in the background, you might stop, look over, attend, maybe realize it's no big deal and continue your conversation, or you might like tell the person you're speaking to, wait just a second, and do something, and then you come back and you finish,
Right.
So that kind of thing. And then sustaining attention. So kids have to go to school and they have to sit in circle time activities for sometimes 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult sometimes for our kids, and they can maybe only last, 3 or 4 minutes. And so that's what we'll do. We'll start with their baseline level. If they can only do 3 minutes, then we'll do 3.5 is the goal, and we'll provide a reinforcer. And then we'll slowly increase the time, and we can get the sustained attention that way. And that can be done also. You can make it more fun by doing play stations and having them move from one station to the next while they're working on play skills, which is a whole other helpful thing, or motor skills or whatever it may be, even academics if they're tracing or whatever. But learning to attend for certain lengths and then learning to shift. So they're both learning to attend for like sustaining periods, but also to shift from one thing to the next.
Yeah. These are important
attention.
skills for children because it sets them up for success. But let's be honest, these are important skills for adults and for everyone.
Yeah.
On or off the spectrum. It can make the difference of whether you're successful or not. Because being able to attend to things that are important to you and shift your focus back and forth to things. I mean, these are incredible skills. Yeah. And it starts quite young. Yeah, so a good idea is to go and observe peers or whatever, or in the classroom, and see what everybody else can do for sitting in a circle time or something, and that would be the goal. It's always important not to have your goals to be like too lofty or something that's really unrealistic. You want to go with what are like typically developing same age peers able to do and stuff. I know as an adult I can sit and attend for hours at my computer and write things and read things, but when they're young, it's going to be just a few minutes initially, and maybe getting up to like 20 minutes even when they're in school, like doing their homework. Right.
They might be only able to do it for 20 minutes, and then they need a break.
And I think that's an important point too, because I see a lot of times in IEPs that even in preschool and in kindergarten, we're getting people at the school level writing in a goal for an IEP that a kindergartner should be able to sit for a half an hour and attend to a lesson.
Yeah.
And, as a parent, we can go and look at the peers, but we don't always know, what's appropriate. Yeah. But I was saying before that skills is a really good a tool to use for these kinds of things, because it helps you to identify what's age appropriate and skill appropriate for an individual child.
I know we have a sustaining attention lesson in there, and I know it has some ages, and unfortunately I don't remember exactly what age it is.
But we have the resource to be able to look it up. It's like the encyclopedia. We don't expect anybody to have memorized everything in there, but the fact that it's there and you can go in and when you get a goal from the school, after you've done the assessment for your child, you can go in and go, is this appropriate for my child in this year? Because a lot of times 30 minutes for a kindergartner. I used to teach college. Sometimes college students struggle with 30 minutes.
So I was working with a child, and basically this child needed to go like on a field trip kind of thing to the library, the public library. The whole school was going. There was going to be a show. It was an entertaining show, but not for this child. And so really he's getting nothing out of it except just learning to sustain his attention and sit still and not freak out, you know? And so basically, you know, the goal was to be able to sit there for 3 to 5 minutes, and then he can take a break. But also allowing him the opportunity to request a break if he can't make it that long. So that he doesn't engage in any, you know, major tantrum behavior or other things like that. So, and then we'll just keep increasing the amount of time that we can get him to do things.
And I think this is the value in this kind of discussion, because I don't know about everybody else out there, but I would never think about all the different ways that there are to pay attention. And I would never think about the disengagement and the shifting focus. I just, that wouldn't occur to me, right? Because it seems to happen organically, except when it doesn't. So having the lessons that are there that breaks it down for you, and the way to teach them, and to keep moving the goalpost a little bit further away and reinforcing it. Powerful, powerful stuff. We shouldn't just assume that our kids are going to get better at attention, should we?
No, not necessarily. I mean, some kids don't really need that intervention, so you can kind of ignore that part if you don't see a problem with it. It's not like because it's in the curriculum you must teach it. I don't like to make people think that every single thing in skills is something they have to work on.
Yeah, you could never.
You kind of just do it if you think that it's a deficit area. But I do want to mention another area too is divided attention, which is basically multitasking. And so I don't really think people truly can do 2 things at once sometimes, you know, like it's
so
hard.
It's just very adept at shifting.
I think it's very quick shifting.
Okay.
But, you know, either way, like an example of an exercise early on that we might do is present, you know, like 2 things at once, and then remove them, and then ask them immediately what did you just see? Or what did you hear and see? Like maybe present an auditory and a visual at the same time. Like think about when you watch a lecture. You see someone talking, you're supposed to be listening to the auditory, and then they'll have slides up too, or like something going on that you're attending to. Some people have a hard time. They tune out the auditory when they're looking at the visual, or vice versa. Which is one reason why they say don't put too many words on your slides and things like that. Maybe just have a visual instead so they can really focus on the words and stuff. But so
really important.
And just remembering that when we're getting them to attend to different things, it's all different kinds of stimuli. So it's auditory, it's visual, it's text, you know, it's making sure that you're getting in all of those different things.